From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Hello and welcome back to 1680 The Crow. I'm your host, Anthony Atanisov, and here's what's happening in the news and sports world. Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly says 2 more flights arranged by the Canadian military are leaving Tel Aviv today. This is to ensure that citizens, permanent residents, and families leave the country safely.
Gaza is one of the worst places to live on earth right now. And so that's why we're really working extremely hard to make sure that there is a humanitarian corridor towards Gaza. And also, we called earlier today different G7 partners to increase their funding to the UN, as we just did, because we need to make sure that humanitarian aid is available first, and second, also given to people.
Joly says 1,300 Canadians have been airlifted out of Israel so far. Moving on to British Columbia, construction companies with more than 25 workers is now required by law to bring flush toilets for job sites. Our reporter Ugiloy Suvanova found out who's going to be in charge to manage it.
BC Building Trades has recommendations to manage the new legal requirements. WorkSafe BC will need to educate the employer community on the new rules that flush toilets are required on the work sites. They will ensure that all sites with 25 people or more have those flush toilets. Jeremy Ellingham, BC Building Trades Communications, says flushing toilets will make a significant difference in the lives of more than 200,000 construction workers in BC.
This will not only improve sanitation and health and safety conditions on work sites, it will also give them the dignity that they deserve when they go to work so that they don't have to face disgusting porta potties that are unclean, that are wet, that are stinky, that are too hot or too cold.
Ellingham says workers deserve reasonable, clean facilities when they work on the sites. I'm Ugiloy Suvanova for 1680 The Crow.
And I'm joined with our reporter, Ugi. So, Ugi, can you tell me what the reaction was of construction workers?
Yes, Anthony. BC Building Trades Jeremy Ellingham from Communications said the response to this announcement is a huge amount of enthusiasm, and everyone is just excited, and then they are able to improve the lives of construction workers on the work side.
And, Ugi, when did Premier David Eby announce this?
Well, he announced it on Monday, and now BC NDP government will be bringing in a legal requirement.
All right, thank you, Ugi. That was our reporter, Ugiloy Suvanova. And still going on with Canada, Canada's annual inflation rate slowed down to about 3.8% in September as prices for a range of goods and services rose more slowly. The main upward pressure on annual inflation were mortgage interest costs, rent, food purchased from restaurants, gas, and electricity. Bank of Montreal macro strategist Benjamin Reitzes says he doesn't see the Bank of Canada cutting its key lending rate anytime soon.
Again, you need a number of months of inflation readings like we got today. And that, again, it's just going to take a meaningful amount of time before we get there. And so rate cuts are not even on the table at this point. It's a 2024 story. By the middle of next year, assuming we get continued progress on this front and the economy is as soft as we expect it to be, then they'll very much be on the table, but we're not quite there at the moment.
It is difficult to speculate when rates will fall to the 2% target from the Bank of Canada. Coming out of the province of Ontario, advocates say early childhood educators in Ontario are among the lowest paid in the country. The Association of Early Childhood Educators and the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare say the current rate of $19 an hour makes the effective minimum wage the third lowest in the country. The coalition's Carolyn Fern says the education minister has promised that a workforce strategy will include a pay boost, but it has been 10 months since it's held consultations.
Here we are in October, still waiting for the province's plan. Meanwhile, the childcare workforce crisis is causing local childcare programs to close rooms and limit enrollment at a time when more parents are hoping to gain access to affordable childcare spaces.
Part of the agreement that Ontario signed with the federal government in joining the national programs was setting a wage floor of $18 an hour in 2022 and increasing it by $1 a year up to $25. In light of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, a clinical trial involving women in the United States, Canada, and several other countries aimed to help researchers understand if 3D mammograms are better than standard 2D imaging for catching advanced cancers. Researchers want to study 128,000 women, and Assistant Professor Heather Dunn with the Department of Bioengineering at Clemson University says there are racial disparities when it comes to breast cancer.
Most people don't realize that African American patients have almost twice the incidence of triple negative breast cancer compared to Caucasian women. And triple negative breast cancer is one of the most aggressive subtypes of breast cancer that exist.
Moving on to U.S. politics, U.S. President Joe Biden will be heading to Israel this evening as he and other world leaders try to prevent Israel's war with Hamas from becoming a bigger regional conflict.
The president's trip comes as Israel and Hamas continue attacking each other.
It's a dynamic area and in many ways a combat zone.
National Security Council spokesman John Kirby tells NBC's Today Show the president knows that, but wants to hear from the Israelis firsthand about their plans, with the humanitarian situation in the cut-off Gaza Strip growing more dire.
He's looking forward very much to getting more of a fingertip feel of how things are going.
The president will also meet with Jordanian, Egyptian, and Palestinian leaders who are warning the current war threatens stability across the Middle East. Sagar Magani, Washington.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump has returned to the Manhattan civil fraud trial that threatens to upend his real estate empire. The lawsuit alleges that he and his company deceived banks, insurers, and others by overhauling his assets and inflating his net worth in paperwork used in making deals and securing financing. Today, Trump renewed his claims that the case is a baseless and politically targeted distraction from his 2024 campaign.
This is a railroading that's all coming out of the Department of Justice. It's all set up by Biden and his thugs that he's surrounded with to try and sneak out an election victory that he's not entitled to win because he's been the worst president in the history of our country.
Trump still denies any wrongdoing. More coming out of the United States. After the first round of voting, no United States House Speaker has been elected. Jim Jordan of Ohio was vying for the speakership, but his fellow Republicans voted against him. Here's temporary Speaker Congressman Patrick McCarney of North Carolina announcing the vote tallies.
No person having received a majority of the whole number of votes cast by surname, a speaker has not been elected.
Some 20 or so reluctant Republicans are refusing to give Jordan their votes, viewing him as too extreme for the powerful position of House Speaker, second only in line to the presidency. More from international news. Ukraine says it has carried out one of the most destructive attacks on Russian air assets since the beginning of the war. ABC's Patrick Revel says there are reports that Ukraine's military use long-range ballistic missiles donated by the United States.
It allows them to strike targets everywhere in occupied territory. They have a 300-kilometer range, which means that none of Russia's supply lines, none of its air bases, and none of its positions in the rear are safe from them.
Ukraine says it's destroyed 9 Russian helicopters at 2 airfields in Russian-occupied regions in a nighttime attack on targets in eastern and southern Ukraine. Halloween charity. Halloween is only a few weeks away. However, for some, the spooky season has been in full effect. Our reporter Grace McLeod got the chance to speak with a home-haunted attraction specialist that is mixing his Halloween passion with a truly thoughtful cause.
Houses and farms alike are being decorated for this Halloween season all around the Lower Mainland. Port Coquitlam resident McCarthy Y is amongst some of these decorating individuals. He has his haunted house attraction up for everyone to enjoy this October. Y, however, has a unique and selfless take on his Halloween passion. Instead of charging people to enter his haunted attraction, he has partnered with a local charity of his choosing in which any and all donations will go towards their cause.
And then this year, I was basically thinking, how can I help kids in our community that deal with food insecurity? And that is essentially the entire mission of Backpack Buddies.
Y is in disbelief with how many people have already donated and are as invested in helping the local community as he is. I'm Grace McLeod, 1680 The Crow.
And now we're on to sports, and we have a trade alert for you. The Vancouver Canucks general manager, Patrick Allvin, announced this morning that they have acquired defenseman Mark Friedman and forward Ty Glover from the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Canucks exchanged defenseman Jack Rathbone and forward Karel Plasek. The Canucks also play in Philadelphia tonight, and they take on the Flyers at 3 p.m. Thatcher Demko is slated to start for the Canucks, and if the Canucks win tonight, they will go 3-0 to start the season, which will be the first time since the 2016-2017 season in doing so. On to soccer now. Police in Belgium have killed a man accused of gunning down 2 Swedish soccer fans in Brussels. Not far from the scene of last night's shooting, authorities shut down a Belgian-Sweden soccer match and held the 35,000 fans inside for hours as a precaution. Soccer fan Caroline Locks told reporters how she felt after police allowed everyone to leave.
Frustrated, confused, scared. I think everyone was quite scared.
More coming out of the Euros. There are 7 other games scheduled for today at 11:45. Kazakhstan beat Finland 2-1 earlier this morning, and the Euro qualifier action will continue tomorrow around the same time. That's all coming out from your sports news. Let's move on to weather, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but showers have started to rain down in Metro Vancouver with temperatures at 14 degrees, and it's looking like 90% chance of showers all day, even leading early on into the next morning. If you're driving, commuters, watch out for slippery roads because it's going to be a nasty one. And those were your news and sports updates for this hour. I'm Anthony Atanasov with 1680 The Crow. Tune in at 12:30 with your next host, Brooke Jensen. Thank you very much.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
It's an emotional night, but a night that's been seeded in hundreds of years of tradition. Welcome to 1680 The Crow. I'm your host, Nicholas Poitras, and on today's featured podcast, we take you 1,400 kilometers north to Kitimat and Klemtu, British Columbia, to listen and learn about the traditional feast of the Haisla Nation. Join alongside me is a member and newly dubbed hereditary chief, Kobe Smith. For starters, many congratulations on your new position. How are you doing today, Kobe?
I'm doing great, Nick. Thanks for asking.
That's great to hear. As I mentioned, you recently became a hereditary chief of the Haisla Nation. You mentioned to me that you took part in a feast, correct?
Yes, that's correct, Nick. I took part in a feast in front of more than 400 community members at the Haisla Nation.
But what are these traditional feasts? To discuss this topic, we talked to Roxanne Robinson, a hereditary chief of the Klemtu Nation, to educate us on what these feasts are.
A potlatch for us is, and a feast, many nations have their own ways of doing it, but for us, we host a feast or potlatch to commemorate special times in our life, whether it's a headstone feast or a tombstone feast where we're celebrating the life of a loved one that's passed on, introducing a baby to the community, or weddings. So we have a long history of hosting potlatches and feasts in our ceremonial big houses from way back in time, where we have different ceremonies for certain life events.
So, Kobe, you flew all the way up for this feast. How much preparation is put into it?
Well, on Friday before the feast, all the clan members from the Killer Whale Fish clan come and help out and cut up all the veggies and the meat for the soup. And after that's done, we start setting up the gym for the community members to come sit and enjoy a meal with us and witness the names being put on our people.
Sounds like something that's been done for many generations. But how long? Greg Smith of the Haisla Nation talks to us about the origins of the feast.
It was born from our hereditary system. As I mentioned, the hereditary system used to govern our entire community, our entire nation. And prior to contact, this was the only system in place. They oversaw all aspects of the community. They were basically the law.
Hundreds of years later, the values of the hereditary system are still with us in the community, including the hereditary names of our ancestors.
What is your hereditary chief name, Kobe, and why is it so important to you and your family?
My hereditary chief name is Haitma Jalas. It's very important to me and my family because I'm keeping the name alive.
Although you earlier mentioned that you don't know the meaning of the name, many names have been given based off of the animals in the area. Roxanne discusses the importance of those names and why they must be passed down.
A traditional name can be anything from a childhood name to, like, when I worked at our community school, I felt it was very important to uplift our children, and we placed different names on them, like Guyam is a humpback whale. So there's childhood names that are common names. They aren't of any rank. But then chieftainship names are something that you have to feast for, or potlatch for, feed the people, gift the people gifts for coming to witness the work that you're done. So there's different types of names. And so I feel that it's important to pass down traditional names is something that's been done for many, many years. Like, I received my father's chieftainship name that was passed on to him from his aunt. And so there's a long lineage of where this name came from. And it's important that, when you receive a chieftainship name, it's not just a name to say that you're a chief. There's a lot of work that comes along with it. You are the voice of the land. You are the voice of the water. You are the voice of the people. And so there's a lot of responsibility for that. You take care of your clan. You take care of the people. You see, people. Being a chief isn't like being a king. Being a chief is looking out for the needs of your people and giving as much as you can and taking care of as much as you can. So I feel that it's really important that these names continue on for our future generations so that we can all stay culturally connected and that we are asserting our rights and title in our own territories.
The importance of these events cannot be understated. Through many years of the Haisla language fading, the feasts and traditional names have grown more powerful in the community. Greg talks about his experience with the language, and Roberta Grant, an Haisla elder, discusses why she finds these feasts very important.
When I was, I can't remember, around in my 30s, that's when I started going to, when I received my childhood name back then, and I started going to feasts. I was a witness of some names that were passed on, but one thing that was really evident in these feasts was the strength of the language and culture. Most of the speakers in past feasts spoke Haisla without interpretation. So, and as you can see this past Saturday, it was rare to hear somebody speak in Haisla. It was mostly all English.
I believe it's very, very important to keep it within our community and keep it within our family, keep us together. It's important, like our language. We keep it within our community and elsewhere.
For you, Kobe, what was the most memorable part of that night?
The most memorable part of that night is when two very special people in my life, my two aunties, Terry Smith and Audrey Grant, placed my traditional blanket on me, and when my Baba Tubby put the headdress on me after I received my hereditary chief name.
What is the traditional blanket?
The traditional blanket is what hereditary chiefs wear at ceremonies and have their crest on the back. For men, the background is black and the border is red. For the woman, the background is red and the border is black. Red and black is our traditional colors. My crest is a salmon. There are a total of 4 salmons on my blanket that represent my Baba Reg that held the name before my dad, Ron Smith. And the second one represents my dad. He held the name before me. The third one represents my mom, and the last one represents me.
I absolutely love that. To have your mother, father, and your grandfather forever remembered on the blanket must make you feel very proud. And again, many congratulations. For people outside of the Haisla Nation, and including non-Indigenous people, these gatherings could seem quite different from the normal way of life. However, Roxanne and Roberta share their thoughts on why the feast is valuable to anyone who wants to attend.
When I hear ceremonies myself, I feel like it feels a bit intimidating, but any way that you can be in doing life, if you're having a tough day, I feel like the water is a healer, and I go to the water and I say my prayers. That's a form of ceremony.
I honestly don't know that question, but I'm thankful every day that this is still going on, like our language, and we have to continue to keep it going. And anybody else that asks for information, because this is a big, big thing to have a traditional feast. It starts from collecting dry goods to finance to the food to setting up and everything like that. In some of the feasts are drying the tears, and that one is just towels. But if you're going to have a big, big feast like you did, Kobe, it's everything. And that's our appreciation to go towards the community that came forward when we lost our loved one.
And like what all our speakers said, this is a tradition that with time holds more and more value and importance to keep the culture alive.
Our traditional ways almost got stolen away from us. That's why for me, I'm so proud of all the nations that get to practice our traditional ways and be able to talk our language and sing our traditional songs.
And that is all for today's feature podcast. I'm Nicholas Poitras alongside Kobe Smith. Follow us on social media at BCIT News on Twitter, myself at NickP_, and Kobe at KobeSmith33. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Ekman Telas. Ekman Telas.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon, I'm Brooke Jensen with your 12:30 news headlines. Everyone knows that excessive drinking can harm your health over time, but not everyone knows what leads to this destructive habit. Our reporter Chris Koo has the details.
The new Canada's guideline on alcohol and health brings awareness of the danger that drinking culture could bring. It suggests all people, regardless of age, sex, gender, tolerance for alcohol, or lifestyle, to drink less than 2 drinks per week. However, more than 50% of people aged 15 and up in Canada drink more than what's recommended according to Canada's guidance on alcohol and health. Then what leads to excessive drinking? Out of the many psychological reasons, psychiatrist David Menkes from New Zealand says taking SSRIs or antidepressants that's prescribed for low mood, anxiety, insomnia and such can lead a person to crave drinking more than usual. However, the new studies found that it is possible for people to continue absorbing SSRIs without showing the symptoms of excessive drinking while also improving one's mood. Chris Koo, 1680 The Crow.
The Richmond RCMP is facing backlash after a 41-second road safety video. In the video, a woman is going for a walk in the daytime with her headphones in both ears and her hood over her head. She hits the crosswalk button, waits for it to flash, and then crosses. A man who is driving and looking at his phone then nearly hits her. The video then says, "Pedestrian safety is a two-way street." People quickly took to X, formerly Twitter, to state their anger, saying he was breaking the law. She was not, and feeling the RCMP is victim-blaming the pedestrian. Sergeant Eric Bassett reports that fall is the worst time of year for pedestrians to get injured by cars, and that the RCMP is just reminding everyone to be safe. Halloween is but a few weeks away. However, for some, the spooky season has been in full effect for a while now. Our reporter, Grace McLeod, got the chance to speak with a home haunted attraction specialist that is mixing his Halloween passion with a truly thoughtful cause.
Houses and farms alike are being decorated for this Halloween season all around the Lower Mainland. Port Coquitlam resident McCarthy Y is amongst some of these decorating individuals. He has his haunted house attraction up for everyone to enjoy this October. Y, however, has a unique and selfless take on his Halloween passion. Instead of charging people to enter his haunted attraction, he has partnered with a local charity of his choosing in which any and all donations will go towards their cause.
And then this year, I was basically thinking, how can I help kids in our community that deal with food insecurity? And that is essentially the entire mission of Backpack Buddies.
Y is in disbelief with how many people have already donated and are as invested in helping the local community as he is. I'm Grace McLeod, 1680 The Crow.
According to advocates, early childhood educators in Ontario are among the lowest paid in the country. The Association of Early Childhood Educators Ontario says the current rate, which is $19 an hour, makes the minimum wage for this job the third lowest in the country. The association and the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare says that raising the wage is critical to the success of childcare programs. The Education Minister, Stephen Lecce, says he is releasing a workforce strategy that will boost compensation sometime this fall.
We do appreciate that there is a great deal of pressure on the workforce. There's a great deal of staff leaving the workforce within 5 years. So we recognize the challenge, and I've committed myself to consult the sector. We've heard them loud and clear.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and a clinical trial is trying to understand if 3D mammograms are better for catching advanced cancers than 2D ones, which is the current standard. The researchers for this trial are aiming to study roughly 128,000 women from several countries, including Canada and the United States. An assistant professor in bioengineering at Clemson University, Heather Dunn, says they have found racial disparities when it comes to these type of breast cancers, and that African American women are 40% more likely to have breast cancer. That was your news headlines for 12:30. I'm Brooke Jensen, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Microlink, connecting you with your BCIT community. Hello everybody, my name is Tatiana Yakovleva and welcome to the first episode of Microlink for the fall term. I'm excited to be back. This episode has a lot in store for us, But first, I would like to acknowledge that the land on which BCIT's main campuses are located is the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically the shared traditional territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish First Nations. To start us off, I sat down with Celine Loriot, the president of the Student Association, to talk about the new executive board, what their visions are, and what's next for us. Celine, why don't you introduce yourself?
So my name is Celine. I am the president of the BCIT SA and a nursing student at BCIT.
That's awesome. And with so many BCIT students, it's never just being a student. Everyone does so much, right?
Of course. I feel like there's a bit of something for everyone at BCIT.
Right. So let's start with a few students. Can you tell us something about the 2023-2024 executive team? What's the vibe? What's the energy? What are you guys bringing to the table?
So I feel so fortunate to be working with such an enthusiastic team. So please don't mind if I rave about some of them. Charlene, the chair of health sciences, is a fellow classmate and nursing student like me. She's an avid runner and hiker. Also, she is pursuing her neonatal specialty. Shelby, the VP Equity and Sustainability, is an accounting student and has an appreciation for Shrek. Feel like a lot of us do.
That's my girl.
And her cat named Kevin. Simran, the chair of Business and Media, is an international student who has a bachelor's in French from India. Also, she keeps students safe as a security guard at BCIT. Abdul is studying architecture and building technology. He likes sports and cars, but only the fast ones. Justin is the chair of computing and academic studies. He is in the computer systems technology program and the voice of Raisin Crane in the Strawberry Shortcake series and volunteers at RAPS Cat Sanctuary in Richmond once a week. Daniel, the chair of specialized transport, is studying aircraft maintenance engineering. He is also serving Canada in the armed forces.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, very dedicated. Lastly, Jimmy, the VP External, is an electrical engineer student and a Lego connoisseur. I could go on about Mia, Rashank, Josh, and Matthew. And if I did, we'd probably be here for a couple hours.
That's fair. We did hear from Mia and Vershank and a lot of the returning execs already. If you haven't checked out the previous interviews, I strongly recommend to doing so. Well, Celine, enough about your team. I want to hear about you. What do you bring to the executive team as the president?
As I mentioned, I am a nursing student in my final year, so I've really honed how to stay calm under pressure and how to think critically. Before this role, I served as the BCIT SA Chair of Health Sciences, and based on that, I know how it feels to be new at the SA. Therefore, I really try my best to set up my executives for success by regularly checking in, acting as a soundboard for new ideas, and encouraging self-care in work-life balance. I firmly believe that the president should share power and leadership is best when it's collaborative. My priority is that students should feel seen, heard, and valued. It's not about being president that motivates me, it is serving the SA mandate of enhancing student life.
Can you briefly touch on what enhancing student life means to you?
So, enhancing student life is really listening to the students and delivering on what their current needs are. One of these mission projects that I'm working on is supporting students' mental health and awareness at BCIT. I plan on continuing with my Campus Convos events, which are mental health workshops with guest speakers shared over a meal at small round tables. This was actually a shared initiative with Josh Liu, the VP Student Experience that we started last year. So I'm definitely excited to continue with this initiative. Also, I want to boost student resilience and foster that sense of community by hosting more social events. I want to make BCIT more fun.
I personally root for paint night, so maybe you can make it happen one day.
For sure.
Okay, we got one vote in. Hopefully I'll get through. As a nursing student, what is the value of mental health? I'm sure you know that more than I do. So can you please briefly touch on that and the magnitude that it carries?
So I started my nursing studies in the peak of COVID.
Right.
And that was the strangest time of my life, right? Because instead of practicing in the community, we were practicing with simulation mannequins, right? So I think for me, mental health is so important because the pandemic made us more disconnected, right? And I think being a nursing student puts me in a unique position to really be in tune with what's going on around me in my environment and have a sense of what's going on for people and how I can really use my compassion to help others. Yeah, I think that's why mental health awareness, especially for students at BCIT, is so important to me.
Is that the main reason you got into nursing?
Yes, because I have had the privilege of growing up with lots of inspirational nurses, and I think just seeing the impact they had on their communities and, sure, no one is ever going to remember their names all the time, but people remember how they made them feel. And I think that is really what inspired me to get into nursing, because I want to have that kind of impact on someone. Make them know that I didn't give up, that, no matter what, I'm there for them.
I love the quote that it's more about how nurses make people feel, because in medical or mental health aspects, it's so vulnerable.
Yes.
And having a right attitude just makes the difference so much. But we'll stray away from that topic and we'll come back to the initiatives. Are there any other initiatives that your colleagues have been fostering that you're very excited about?
So I'm excited to work with Shelby Woida, the VP of Equity and Sustainability, to find ways to indigenize the organization. And we are thinking of doing this through consulting with elders on best practices so we can move more in the direction of promoting reconciliation that is meaningful to us. We hope to achieve this through education and events in collaboration with community partners at BCIT. Mia Boo, the VP of Finance and Administration, plans on continuing her free tax clinic for students. It was very popular and successful last year. I think this is an excellent initiative as tax time can be stressful for students, and it allows student volunteers to practice their tax skills. Vershank Prabhu, the chair of Energy, is leading the SETREP committee, which is focused on improving the SETREP program for everyone. And actually, many executives are interested in finding ways to just make it that better experience. And lastly, Justin Saint, the chair of Computing and Academic Studies, plans to continue hosting the annual QDS Hackathon, where teams work together to create solutions to an industry problem. And the winners get prizes and chances to connect with the judges who are potential employers.
Ooh,
lots of fun stuff happening.
So you mentioned the tax clinic, correct? And I personally can vouch that I volunteered for it last year. Honestly, an amazing experience for those who go there and volunteer there as well. But speaking of taxes and the economy, as you know, that the current economy is not very favorable with the interest rates rising, and it has affected everyone. Currently, there was a referendum last year regarding finances. So how does BCIT Student Association operate in a deficit? And how do you choose your priorities when it comes to limited funds? Because everything has a limited fund. We cannot...
Of course.
Unfortunately, we would love to have unlimited funds, but that's not realistic. So how do you set your priorities in this situation?
It's true that we are in a deficit, and we have chosen not to cut back services to students. Hosting successful events requires thoughtful planning and buy-in from the team. Also, we have options to move funds around to support initiatives. For example, September is jam-packed with student-facing events that we started planning many months in advance. The execs will be present at the events, so please stop by and hang out with us. It'll be great.
Awesome. Well, can you give us a sneak peek of one of those events?
Oh, one of them, we plan on having a pub party where we'll have a DJ and we'll have meal specials. And yeah, I'm really excited just thinking about it.
And besides the social events and gatherings, what do you think that the students at BCIT need the most in this current time?
It isn't easy being a student. Affordability is huge, and we know students need to feel supported during their academic journey, and there are numerous negative impacts from the rising costs of parking, housing, food, education, and textbooks. The list goes on. I see it every day with my classmates, many of whom have to work longer hours or take additional jobs just to make ends meet.
Right.
Additionally, mental health challenges continue to be prevalent, and no student should have to face this alone without adequate support. The SA is here to help, and will keep pushing BCIT and the government to step up even more.
And what does stepping up mean for you in this case?
So stepping up means really addressing these needs and being there for students. We opened a food pantry and we secured student support as a BCIT SA community for increased investments in this program over the coming year. Most importantly, we are constantly advocating to BCIT and the government around parking affordability, student aid, better regulation of international tuition, and increased mental health support.
And as far as I understand, that's the responsibility of VP External to lobby for those things.
Correct.
I know that's not your role, but can you briefly give us a sentence or two to summarize what your colleague does?
So Jimmy, the VP External, he goes on lobby trips with the government relations strategist Stuart. And in those trips, they are purposeful trips where they advocate for students in meetings with government officials.
I'm sure it's very tiring to do so, but I appreciate Jimmy doing that on our behalf. We'll get to the nitty-gritty part. I've heard some rumors that some students feel there is a disconnect between the student association and the students themselves. Do you think that is the case?
We can always do better. And this is top of mind during my presidency. Students connect with us for appointments with advocacy specialists for support with wellness and navigating BCIT educational policies. Also, students enjoy connecting with career specialists as they help give them that extra boost that they need in their careers and connect them with employers at career fairs. We form a council with student representatives across all schools and campuses. Therefore, I strive to find ways to motivate students to join, especially where students can directly have their say and shape the direction of the SA. BCIT attends student consultations with us throughout the year, so this is a great way to let them know what challenges and suggestions you have.
And for want students to get involved and to really voice their opinions, how can they do that? I believe, as far as I know, anyone can sit on the council meetings. Is that correct?
That is correct. Everyone is welcome. We have food. And yeah, it's one of the best ways to stay in the know in what's happening in the student community.
SA itself, there was a 5-year plan called Raising the Bar. What does that mean to you specifically, Celine?
Raising the bar means putting in the work to match words to action. For instance, we want to engage with more students by having more student-facing events throughout the year. Doing so will increase our presence at BCIT and student engagement at times such as the AGM and elections. Our new strategic plan will require everyone to work together in January to determine how we move forward into the future to enhance student life.
And what do you hope will be accomplished by 2024 with this plan?
I hope that students will be able to see our presence and feel that we are here to support them.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to the BCIT students listening today?
At the BCIT SA, you choose how you want to be involved. You can join one of our 40-plus clubs, attend Kickstart and Welcome Back events, sign up as a set rep or counselor, or go to our website to learn about all the great services we offer. Please reach out to us if you have questions or concerns and send us your ideas. We are an inclusive and welcoming organization, pet-friendly too.
That is true. I've seen so many cute doggies running around. But I personally lobby for more cats. I'm a cat person. We need more cats.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you can't tell them where to go, so that's probably the only hiccup. But to end things off on a maybe slightly lighter note, do you have any advice for upcoming students? A lot of people are starting in September. What do you think a new student at BCIT should know?
At BCIT, there are so many people that would like to help you and so many resources here. And no one is ever going to turn you away if you say you're not okay. And yeah, we are a supportive community and we really want to see our students thrive.
I think it takes effort to reach out, which is why there might be a sort of barrier when it comes to it. But I can say from personal experience, it is worth it if there is anything, an issue going on. And even if it's not really related to student life, you can always find resources. I personally encourage every listener to really reach out to people. We're only an email away, really, so.
Yeah.
And you can book appointments with Celine and other executives as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So each executive holds their office hours, and one way to find out when we're available is to go on our website and click the link to book an appointment with us. Or even if you just see us in the hallway, talk to us. We're happy to chat.
So now you know how Celine sounds like. So if you hear her voice, you know who she is. That's what it's like, hi, Celine. But thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that the September will be off to a great start. It sounds like a lot of is cooking up, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, like I said, I want to make BCIT fun again.
To continue discussing changes at the Student Association, I sat down with Roland Gagel, the Director of Finance and Interim Executive Director for the SA. He and I discussed what his two current roles entail, how they play into one another, what their differences are, and what they do to make the student life better. Hello, everyone. I'm here with Roland. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Roland Gagel, and I am the Director of Finance and the Interim Executive Director for the Student Association of BCIT.
So, Director of Finance is your main role, correct?
That is correct.
Can you tell me more about your main role?
I've been with the Student Association since 2003, so 20 years now, and my role as the Director of Finance is to oversee the finance and accounting and administration of the Student Association.
And in terms of being Interim Executive Director, how does that look like for you?
I get a lot more emails on a daily basis now. So in terms of the role of the executive director, it's overseeing the operations of all of the staff and acting as a liaison, to the board and council. So assisting and supporting them and translating their objectives down to the staff and trying to achieve the goals that they want to have.
And in that position, do you integrate with all of the levels of the Student Association, or is it more of a relay between the board and the employees of the Student Association?
There's obviously a team of people. I don't talk to everybody individually. In totality, the Student Association has about 100 staff, so I don't talk to everyone, and many of the staff are involved with serving the students at our retail stores and things.
Right.
But so I mean, I don't manage all the staff directly. There's a team of directors that I directly liaison with or chat with and inform them or inform them of the board's wishes and just manage the operations from that point.
And how long have you been in this interim role?
Since June.
Okay. And combining this and your main role of Director of Finance, what does your day in your life look like?
It's answering a lot more emails than I used to be doing, and trying to fit in the Director of Finance duties, some of which I've downloaded a little bit to the controller of the Student Association. Everyone's pitching in as best they can to help me out. It's an awful lot, and I certainly don't mind doing it for the benefit of the Student Association. So I certainly can't do it by myself. All of the staff are helping me out as best they can.
And I did hear Little Bird say that you do bike to work.
Do bike to work most days.
Most days. That's a nice start to your routine. Is there anything else that you like in your daily routine to break up the busyness?
Well, I try to make sure I have lunch.
That's always good.
That's always good. Other than that, no, it's bike to work to sort of get some fresh air and get going, and then it's doing the work and trying to answer emails, try to reach out to staff, talk to staff directly. I try not to sit at my desk too much. I do like to chat with people because I find it's a more informative way to bring the team together and sort of move things forward. So yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like the students to know about you and the Student Association?
I've been with the Student Association for 20 years, as I said. I've seen a tremendous amount of growth in the Student Association since I started. It is a completely different organization since when I started in 2003, but the mission has always stayed the same. All of the staff are dedicated to tagline. It's not just a tagline, it's the mission of the Student Association, which is enhancing student life. I'm always striving to make the Student Association better, but always better in the sense of trying to make things better for students, because the students are the members of the Student Association.
And how does that betterment look like in the next 5 years for you?
Well, there's a number of projects on the table in the short term in improving the food pantry, food security program. We've recently hired a food security coordinator as per the referendum that was passed last spring by the students. So enhancing that program, part of the objectives of that program is to bring it to the other campuses where possible. How that is actually going to look is still to be determined, but we're working on that because we fully understand the need of food security exists at all campuses. We're still working on with BCIT to determine where additional space for the Student Association could be on campus. That is part of the mandate of the Student Association. And so that's still in the works. It's taking a little longer than we anticipated just because of the complexity of the negotiations with BCIT and the need to find the space and then to pay for it. We are collecting a new building fee to facilitate the building of a new space or acquiring a new space, however that may be, and there's just a lot. It's a complex thing, so we're still working on that. And then just in general, just trying to strive that all of our services are a little bit better every year, and make the delivery of services to students more efficient, more effective, and of more value to students.
And you talked about the consequences of the referendum. Is there any other ripple effect that students may not notice in their daily life?
With respect to the food security program, we brought that forward. It was brought forward by council to the students, and they voted in a positive manner to increase the fee as it relates specifically to the food security program, and now we're just rolling that out. the ripple effect there is just to be of benefit to students because the students found that to be of value. I can't really think of any other ripple effects. It's just all in the package or mandate to enhance student life.
And I talked to Celine about involving more student events. Is that something you're currently working on, or is it something that you don't oversee as much?
I am certainly working on it, not directly, but the council and the board has communicated that wish to me to have more actual student life on campus in terms of events, and I've communicated that to the other staff, and we are working on that. So, for instance, we did have the party at the pub on September 22nd, which was quite successful, and we've heard from students that they enjoyed that very much, and that seemed to go well. And we're in the process of planning another party for Halloween, and probably another kind of a party at the end of November. And we intend to continue planning more events, both bigger events and smaller events, to provide more life on campus.
What was some of the feedback that you received from the students during the Habitat Pub party?
Generally positive. They all seem to have a good time. There was some pickup on the Uber rides that we provided to students for the night of the party. We intend to do that again. With respect to the Halloween party, it was generally well received, and everything went reasonably smoothly. There weren't really any major hiccups as far as I'm aware. So it was generally positive. We're just trying to, for the Halloween party, to expand it a little bit and make it an even bigger event. I'm not going to share any details because that's going to come out in the next week or two, the details as it relates to that. But we're just trying to make the next party bigger and better, more fun.
Will you dress up?
Will I dress up? I hadn't thought about that yet.
That's fair enough. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
I hope those 2 interviews were very insightful for you folks, because they were for me, and I work for the Student Association. Oh, but speaking of, you can check out more Student Association content, events, and things that are happening in the area on the Instagram at BCITSA. Same with Link. Our Instagram is at LinkBCIT. Also, check out our TikTok, run by yours truly. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I will see you in the next one.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Siggi-Kane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.